And Pavel and Olga, the room is all yours.
Thank you. And thank you everyone who is here with us today. Some people continuing from previous sessions, some joining specifically for Peaceful Future session. I would like first of all to honor the team that has brought this event together. I think it's a fantastic effort. A 21st 4 hours gathering of people all over the world talking about future transformation of our civilization. How can we make civilization eco-friendly? How can we align with our planet? How can we build up global peace in the world? And thank you very much, the hosting team, for allowing us to be here today. And please look up the website of Ecocivilisation that is driving this initiative. So Olga, also welcome. Olga will be my host, co-host today, and we will have a dual workshop because we will try to do two things in this really short hour. So one is about general project, the Peaceful Futures project, and what is it about, and your ideas about how can we create peace-based civilization for all of us during the 21st century. But the second question that we will also explore today is what is the role of possible universal languages of peace? And most importantly, can art play that role? So that will be the second half of the workshop today, and Olga will lead that part. And first of all, before we begin, I would like to ask everyone to maybe share your location, where you're speaking from, or connecting to us from, and your role in the world. So, what are you doing? Maybe you're a teacher, maybe you are an artist or an NGO leader, and just to kind of grasp the outreach of our gathering today. And for me, I am currently speaking from the neighborhood of St. Petersburg in Russia. And for me personally, the last 6 months have been quite emotionally devastating because of the war that is happening and decisions that have been made by the leadership of Russia. And the question that I hold personally is how can civic society avert such things in the future? What is the role of NGOs? What is the role of movements? And what can we do together to change the pathway of our society? So I see there are people joining us from New Zealand. Thank you, Derek. Thank you, Will. Bert. Will has been with us during the sessions of this project, despite the fact that it's extremely late usually when the gatherings are happening. So thank you very much for the support. So Olga from Tel Aviv. Right, let's hear a few more answers and then we'll start. So please continue typing in, and meanwhile I'll start the presentation. So first of all, Sydney, welcome. Farewell, Scotland. It's so lovely to have people joining us from India, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa. Thank you. All right, so let's continue typing in so we'll know a little bit more about each other, and I'll start the presentation about the workshop and this project in general. So Peaceful Futures. And today we have what we call an extra workshop in our journey, but this is all a pilot. So we try to create different, let's say, meeting points for all of us to bring this forward. I hope I can still be heard, because I think my
yeah, all good.
Oh, good. Okay, thank you. So the key premise that we start with is that wars continue to be part of our global reality. And there are many wars happening around the world, not only the current war in Ukraine, which is, of course, a huge danger for this part of the global planet, but there are many other regions that are currently affected, and there are serious and massive crises happening, and we need to accept that this is part of our current reality. It continues to be. And also, once wars begin, frequently civic societies find themselves really helpless, being able to do very little to avert military conflicts, repressions that follow, and their voices frequently are not heard. So that is part of what is happening now. But the questions about the future wars are showing that this can be one of the most serious threats to our collective futures in the 21st century. Already in the last several hundred years, the humanity has seen an exponential growth of the lethality of weapon, and actually with the creation of nuclear weapons, the war has entered a totally different stage. But development of new warfare continues. We now see autonomous military robotics applied in the battlefield, use of cyber attacks that can affect millions and tens of millions of population, and many more things that probably are still there to come. So wars begin to represent a serious danger for the very existence of our species. And even though we learn how to avert some of territorial conflicts presently, not all of them, there will be new and serious causes for war in the upcoming years. And of course, one of the most challenging upcoming factors is the climate change that is going to affect several billion people during the 21st century, and over 1 billion is expected to be affected in until before 2050. And in some regions there will be massive migration, like sub-Saharan Africa or South Asia, where tens of millions of people will be displaced from their current habitats, will have to move on because they simply will not be able to continue living in those places anymore because of high temperatures, no possibility to produce food anymore, and so on. So this is a massive risk for the global stability, and of course a possible serious upcoming reason for future wars. And already a few decades ago, Buckminster Fuller said that either war becomes obsolete or the humanity will be obsolete. And he and many other visionaries throughout the 20th century envisaged the possibility of the world without wars, the world where we learn to live in global peace and make the war obsolete. And increasingly, the humanity has been learning how to prevent wars, how to learn peace. And there was probably a really very serious advancement on that account. The work of Steven Pinker argues that throughout the last several centuries, the rate of violent conflicts has been rapidly decreasing. But of course, it's nowhere near from totally being eradicated. So the work of Peaceful Futures Project that we bring to you, and we invite you to join, is to ask two types of questions. So one of them is getting really, let's say, bold in our exploration. Ask, is it possible to abolish wars once and for all and create a peace-based civilization, and do it within the lifetime of maybe some of people in this room, before the end of 21st century, in the next 50 years. So how is that possible? How can we make it real? And part of the question is, how do we do it now? What are some of the best practices, opportunities that social entrepreneurs, movement builders, artists, educators can instigate in our society to begin moving in that direction with and amplify that possibility? And we are conducting a series of workshops. There have been already 2 workshops throughout September. We're now conducting an additional one today to let people from Eastern Hemisphere, from Australia, New Zealand, Asia join us in their thinking. And there will be 2 more workshops happening in October on the day, the Teachers' Day. We will talk about the future of peace-based education. And on the UN Day, we will talk about the future of global governance. So let me quickly, yes, before going any further, wanted also to say that the project has been co-created by a group of players. So my team from Global Education Futures, we are exploring the future of future scenarios and new models of learning for the society in the 21st century. Zorlab, my colleague Olga, she will speak more about that, the team she's leading, but it is a team that explores future possibilities through arts and culture and future scenarios. There are 2 more partners, School of International Futures, London-based organization that works primarily with new models of thinking in international politics. And Next Generation Foresight Practitioners is an international network that explores where young foresights, future study experts are developing together in a community. So we are coming together, but of course there'll hopefully be more and more partners that will join this work. And let me quickly share with you some findings from first 2 projects where we looked at this question of how do we eradicate war and how do we create culture of global culture of peace. So first of all, journey to peaceful future is not a straight line. It will be an interplay of many facets or spheres of our society and will require collective learning of our communities on all levels and co-evolution of many social institutions. So it's not a very simple journey, but there are pathways. That is important. What is really crucial to recognize is that this is not something that can be engineered top down. That's not the job of elites to create global peace. It is the role of every society member, and the peace can only come from within, can be raised bottom up. Power structures, they can be enablers of conditions for global peace. There are principles we begin to identify, but probably will rectify them further. Principles that will be able to create some conditions for peaceful futures. And probably at the center of all are ideas that we need to increasingly put love and life as the principles that our societies, our processes are built up to. So how can we create social structures, processes, metrics, and so on that amplify life, not only human life, but embrace all forms of life and love in our society? How can we prioritize inner development goals in addition to sustainable development goals? How can we move away from economic measures of success to universal well-being? We need to bring up the ideas that our society needs to become regenerative, and we need to establish reciprocal relationships between ourselves and also between our economies and societies and nature. Commit to fair, just, and inclusive economy and social relationships. Open source, decentralization are really essential in creating the peace-based futures. And I'll talk more about empathy and trauma-informed approaches, but it seems they are part of that principle of love and life-based processes and structures. They have our commitment to human and planetary healing. In terms of driving forces, we looked at different facets, like can the UN and other superstructures be drivers? Can technology be the driver? Can different forms of different types of groups working with collective consciousness be the driver, and so on? And can economy be the driver? We recognize that actually, when we see who can be those players, we see a combination of let's say, people that work with high tech and what we can call high human, the ones that work with collective consciousness through media, art, education, that is indeed at the center of global peacemaking effort, coupled with different forms of decentralized technology initiatives like open source platforms, open sharing economy models, and so on. Existing economic models probably are one of the main blockages to that peaceful future, because they produce inequality, they produce exploitation, they produce new causes for wars. And eliminating unfair and non-transparent supply chains, monopolies, oligopolies is part of the journey that needs to happen. Energy transition, new ways of creating our consumer goods, they all are part of the journey. And like I have already mentioned, the existing superstructures and national governments are not really compatible with that future. So we need to learn how to evolve them, and the groups that are enabling it, like governance. Economy will be more, economic players will be more like opportunists. If they see opportunity in, let's say, benefiting from producing global peace, that can create a really big momentum in making the peaceful futures. And very briefly about our second workshop, which just happened 2 days ago, so we were not able to properly process every result from that workshop, but I will share first insights, and we will take it further today in our conversation. So the second workshop looked at the essential condition for creating global peace, which is creation of the new common grounds, cultural common grounds. We saw just a few moments ago that the journey to peaceful future is based on the choice of every person in our society. So that is what culture does. It creates conditions for either production of war or production of peace. So culture as a process of actively creating our environment where we live, where we communicate, where we interact with each other, is something that creates that, let's say, foundation. And some of our findings are such that, first of all, we need to look at culture on several levels. That is happening in our daily life. It's happening on the level of our societies, like macro regions, nations, religious entities, and so on. And it's also happening on the macro level, the emergence of a global universal culture. Some call it planetary culture or planetizenship. And on micro level, there are many things that produce conflicts, including family violence and intergenerational trauma. And these are factors that create violence and brew potential conflicts. So learning to heal these aspects is really crucial, and bring more compassion in our daily life. Also, traveling freely, learning from others, especially for young people. In terms of our societies, we need to learn how to create our spaces of living, like cities, as places of peace and dialogue, and make our societies transparent in decision making and being accountable. And on macro level, there are many things we can talk about, but we need to start seeing ourselves as part of the global unity, as seeing ourselves in the field of interdependence, not only between humans, but with all living beings on Earth. And empathy, loving kindness, respect, and inclusivity are so essential to make it real. And we also need to learn to coexist with non-human entities, including maybe what we sometimes call non-living entities, like how do we coexist with oceans, with rivers, with mountains, but also with living ecosystems and other species. How can we create legal systems that support this transition? Last point is that the role of technology, of course, is ambivalent. It can lead us to, let's say, darker scenarios, but it can also lead us to brighter scenarios. And one of the questions that was explored is, can we invite, so to say, or use artificial intelligence to nudge people to learn peace and to be more humanistic? But to do it, we need to create AI that is more humanistic and that is conveying the culture of the future. That is part of our current exploration. And maybe to inspire you and to move into our conversation, I would like to also show you what AI thinks about this, all this work. So we fed some of the results into current artificial intelligence systems that produce artworks like Midjourney. And as you can see, one of the artworks is something that we decided can become a logo of this project. So it was about the creation of new decentralized superstructures to support peace. Then talking about the use of technology, we saw the idea of hacking the war virus, and there were some images about it, maybe not as inspiring. But maybe what is extremely inspiring for me is images of evolving our consciousness through culture. So as you can see, the opening artwork in this presentation was actually a production of the AI. So it's already a co-creation between humans and technologies. And right now, I would like to welcome your reactions, and please maybe type some of your ideas. Maybe you can raise your hand and share. Two questions that we hold, and that is something we're going to continue to explore. One, your ideas about how to make peace-based civilization real, but also what are some examples of what is happening right now in your part of the world that need to be on the map to highlight that this is already becoming real. Thank you. And if you want to share something, to give your reactions or to ask questions, please raise your hand and we'll proceed. And then in about 10 minutes, we will move to the second part of our workshop with Olga. And meanwhile, I can look at what chat has been saying.
Pavel, sorry, just to clarify, are we sharing some of what the questions that you asked right now, or are we just reflecting?
I would like to actually invite people to maybe share your thoughts in and speak up. So please, yes, I already see a hand of Robert. So let's start. Robert, please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Pavel. Amazing, impressive overview of your workshops, and your studies, your research, and your findings. I love it when it's presented in such a concise way. And also that you showed AI as an example, something not to be afraid of, but something that can be very helpful, supportive, and beautify things. So that's one thing. The other thing is, do you feel that if we want to become sort of a peaceful society in 50 years or warless, that we can integrate sort of life-affirming criteria or criteria that prevent situations that will result to war? So the sort of decision-making that AI can support us, that we can check the boxes like, okay, here, can you elaborate a bit on that, please? Thanks.
So first of all, the general conclusion is that we need to create systems that eliminate conditions for future wars and actually evolve our society to become life-affirming. So actually the work of people that try to create regenerative economies or economies that are more aligned with nature, let's say, is also the work of peacemaking. So so that is not compatible. It's exactly moving in the same direction. And if we use AI, as part of that empowering or enabling technology, we really need to, let's say, create AI in the shape that, in terms of like what data is fed, what criteria are set up, in the shape that actually allows this to be amplified. So yes, I can see the hand of Artie. So we will have a few questions. So let's yeah.
Yeah. So wonderful, Pavel. I think what you're talking about is something just so relevant in terms of the whole thought process that needs to be, imbibed in practically every person on the planet as of today. And I work and I play with this idea, in the work that I do with young people, with students who are traumatized by terrorism or riots, in where I work. And then I work with the families also to make them understand what their children go through. And in the breakout session that we had with Sharon, I was mentioning this to my group that, people need to, parents sometimes, and that's my point of address when in my area of work, that parents need to understand that when they're bringing up their children, when they're nurturing their children, are they aware of the fact that if their child is about 15 to 17 years of age today, that this child is going to live in the world till about 2080? So are they nurturing their children from the point of view of their past fears and their current fears, or are they allowing their children to really see the world and explore the world for year 2080 and the time between? Because let's be honest, that the earth has existed for about millions of years, but each one of us has been given about 70 to 80 years to survive and make something out of our lives and make our lives matter. So clearly that is the idea that has to come about and set in when we do what we do on this planet. And the other statistic I was really fascinated by was that, wars have taken place, or civilization has been active for about 3,400 years, out of which we've only been at peace for about 280 years, clearly being at peace for about 8% of our living lives across the human lifespan. So clearly that's an indicator and a marker of who and what our propensity has been so far, and that's not been so good. So, and interestingly, the other line that I read in the statistic was that no war gene has been found in mankind. So clearly, where does it all start from? It starts from domestic violence. It starts from violence in proximity, and it goes completely unattended by what we call it takes a village. So what is this village that we need to prepare for people to nurture children, which is the founding stone of all civilization and societies as we've had, have, and will have. So clearly, if you look at the founding stone of our society in the present and past and future and whatever timelines one wants to follow, the founding stone, I mean, come to think of it, every world leader who's pressed the button comes from a traumatized past or an unresolved past. We might think that, I'm a middle-class person, my child was never going to become a world leader. Hell, we've all been wrong. So when you look at the idea of war, when you look at the idea of peace, we're all in the same chain of command. And I think it's the whole collective psyche that has to admit and agree that what we do and how underappreciated we leave our children, our young people. I might not be a mother or somebody else might not be a father, but what we do casts a reflection on who we are as people, as nurturers and not just breeders. So I think the whole idea or the paradigm of what war really is, or how it comes about as a part of human action and reaction, is how we think about peace, is how we think about nurturing, is how we think about responsibility altogether. I mean, working with so many different dimensions of disturbance altogether in my career, I've realized this one thing, that we are not attracted to peace. We are always attracted to violence by design as humans. And I think that has to have better collective large-scale examples and exemplification.
Thank you. Thank you, Artie. I just wanted to maybe quickly remark that there are different ways of tracking. Did we really, as a humanity, live in a lone peace or lone war? And there are lots of evidences that large-scale warfare only emerged about 10,000 years out of 200,000 years of human history. And there were some conflicts, but they were, let's say, small conflicts. There was some violence before, but not really speaking about really proper wars, which emerged with a transition to agricultural society. And still, even then, there are great examples of old civilizations like Indus Valley civilization that existed for many centuries without any massive wars. So I think we can look at this through different lenses. There are two schools. One says war has always been with us, other the opposite. Let's move on. And Ferial, please.
You wanna? I can say something, because if it's okay.
You should put up your hand, Sharon.
Where I should put it? It's, you can see me. It's like here.
Yeah. There's. It's just like sort of building up the lineup.
Actually, that's the thing. There should be a call for action. Like we are all aligned. Like we identified the need, the problem, and we have all the solutions. So it's really about the call for actions. And we said it out loud. It's like bottom up, top down, person to person. So what we can do, and it could be even something we can create here, and like call it out loud to the world, like have this declaration of a state of world peace and world reform. Like, I'll give you an example. I am Sharon Galor, hereby declare world peace on behalf of all humanity. What peace aimed at correction, the correction of the representative political systems to be blessed with more pure democracy. The correction of the social competitive systems to be blessed with cooperation, right? Regeneration and abundance. The correction of the economic linear systems to be more blessed with circularity, right? And the correction of the legal systems to be blessed with just and integrity. The correction of the medical systems to be blessed with complete health and medicine. The correction of the education system to be blessed with imagination, wisdom, and morality. The correction of the communication systems to be blessed with decentralization and transparency. I, Sharon Galor, hereby declare world peace on behalf of humanity, world peace aimed at repairing and replacing the separation, ignorance, racism, and outdated beliefs. And I welcome your arrival. Change angels, angel of architect of change, angels of service, angels of unity, angels of wisdom, angel of science. Peace be upon you, peace and blessing. Okay, just to wrap up my thing, is like I must point out that we have no choice left. Like it is like a daily war. I mean, also for us. I mean, also for me. It's really about surviving, and I think life should be more than just surviving. So it's really about a call for action. This declaring peace, and have all the leaders out there like follow. This could be like a challenge, that everyone is challenging the other person. Like, I mean, so we could actually already start living in peace with the animal and the plants, with the climate, with other nations, with each other, for future generations, and most importantly, peace with ourselves. That's how I see it. So I think really like it's for us, we can now co-create something like such a call for action, a declaration for world peace, and we can incentivize world leaders to just follow this. Maybe my, and you see the focus was on correcting.
Yeah, Sharon, sorry to break up a bit, but we have very limited time, so maybe we have more speakers, so please.
Yeah. Thank you, Sharon.
Pavel.
And maybe if you also can kind of frame it as a statement, right? Writing statement. This will invite others to also join in. So there are two more hands, and then also we have like time is running up for our second presenter, Olga. So let's be efficient and maybe just 1-2 minute comments and then move on to Olga's presentation. Ferial, please.
Well, Sharon's thing was amazing in the sense of we would all like to say what he said, right? But what Artie was pointing out is that there's 8 billion of us, and most of us right now are not saying that. So my statement kind of my reflection here is, how do we get all of us to be actually in that heart space, right? Because that's what we need if we really want peace. So in a way, she was saying that parents are reflecting that, you know, they're not raising the kids with that understanding of actually, this is what peace means. This is what that is, right? This is how you embody it, because they don't have it themselves. So how are they going to do that, right? So the thing that I heard a statistic, or I used this statistic that was kind of reached through an endeavor done by Deloitte's Shift Index survey in 2016. And 2 questions were asked. The first one is, you know, how do you love the world that you live in? Do you think it's a good world, right? And the second one was, do you like how you're expressing yourself in the world? So 9 out of 10 of us said we don't like the world we live in, and 8 out of 10 of us said we don't love the way we express ourselves in this world. And I think from that place, we are creating, and it is that reason that I'm suggesting our inner development stuff has to become a priority. Because we cannot address our bigger meta kind of issues until we have a commitment, and from each of us to do that. Even the ones of us who are already kind of thinking we're conscious, we have to continue that endeavor. It has to be a continual investment, because we are hopefully going to be able to help others to do the same thing. So that would be my challenge to us if we want peace.
Thank you, Andy. And then let's move to Olga's presentation.
Yeah, it was just a very quick thought, what you were saying there about humans have, you know, we have this impression that we've been on these full-scale wars for quite a long time. My part-time gig is as a tour guide in Scotland. So I take people on tours in Scotland, and what that's meant is I've actually had to look at the history of Scotland and try and understand it. And what I again discovered is that the wars that we think were huge, big wars that lasted a long time and were really brutal were actually quite short. There were a lot of rules to them. Even in medieval times, you know, not many people were actually killed, because it was a kind of form of chess, economic, macro level chess. And as soon as it became obvious that one side was winning and the other was losing, everybody just packed up and went away again, right? So this idea of mass paranoia, mass destruction, humans are really bad. From the history, you know, we trade in this in Scotland, our bloody history, we bring tourists here and stuff, and you actually find it's not really true. You know, there was violence, but violence was actually very organized and controlled, and it wasn't as widespread as we're led to believe. Just a thought.
Thank you, and I'm sure we can continue exploring this. I would also invite you, please share your own projects or projects that your friends and peers are doing, to kind of begin building up that map where we sort of identify, okay, we're doing this, we're doing it through different facets. So let's continue. Olga, please, over to you. I'm sorry we took so long, so please.
It's okay, it's the part of the process, and maybe I have to wrap up some of the wider ideas I wanted to transfer, but it's totally fine, because we are continue doing it, and maybe you will join us again, and then we will continue our common exploration. I'm a founder and curator of Zorlab. As Pavel already mentioned, we are the team of who works with art-based processes to understand futures, and we have this humanitarian focus. For example, my colleague who is here, Anastasia Evgrafova, who is also a part of Peaceful Futures team in Zorlab. She was presenting her ideas on arts and humanities at the Humanitarian London Forum. And this is how we work. We believe that there are some answers in arts, or at least questions. So, and with that, I will share my presentation with you. Let's maybe find some more answers or some more questions together. Just a second, I'll do this nicely and smoothly. Let me know if you see everything well. Well, Art for Peace, what is that? That's actually, for us, it's a tough question, because we have already started to explore that, and there is no easy answer. Is art can really be peace building practice? So I invite you to share your ideas meanwhile in the chat while I'm speaking, and I'll send you some links right away, right after I stop sharing. I would start with the quote, actually, of Marshall McLuhan. I know that not many people know this quote of McLuhan's, and I really like that. He said that all the warning signals of the new ground are present in the arts long before the hardware boys ever healed them, which means that there is a visionary potential of those who work in creative field, who work with arts, that there are some scenarios or alternative realities that can be transferred to audience or to professional community, and there are glimpses of that future that is already there and not seen for everybody. And of course, in this case, the most maybe like established example of the art for peace is John Lennon and Yoko Ono's performance, Bedouins for Peace. That's the time when we invented the slogan, "Make love, not war," and this hippie, beautiful epoch, and they just laying in the bed and saying that it is the best option to do except and not doing war and not being a part of the conflicts. And as Yoko Ono highlights, that actually they didn't know if there would be any influence of that, and they still don't know and she still doesn't know exactly if there was a real impact, but still there might be. So we don't know how the art sphere really works, and art inspiring pieces influence, but there is an example of how anything could be made. But important thing here that that time was different from today's, and they did something very right at the time of their own. If to talk about more contemporary practices, just another example, and this is I'm coming with the examples just to highlight some approaches maybe. This is Tomas Arsenov, a very well-known artist of today, and his 𝐼𝐶 community. And what is interesting about 𝐼𝐶 community, they work first of all with ecology-based issues. They do care about the environment, and secondly, they want to get rid of the borders we have, and for that we have to, put the space on the earth, because there are no borders in the space. They have this manifesto. I'll share the link right away, that Aeronautus Unite. And they work as a distributed community all around the world, who try to understand, first of all, how to use another methods to move across the earth, without using any fossil fuels or something bad for the environment. And here you see one of the decisions they have. And secondly, they think through conceptually how it is possible to be living on the earth without these borders, how we can let capitalism die if we consider the idea that there is something common. For example, space is common, and that we really have to share this. And of course, as Pavel already mentioned, it's a tough time for us now, for those who came from Slavic countries, and this is an example of how actually contemporary shamanism could work. This is a music video by Stasik, Lullaby for the Enemy. I invite you to watch the video afterwards. And this was made in 2019, and it's Ukrainian singer who says to her obviously Russian enemy that please sleep, just sleep. And she keeps repeating that. She says that if you want this earth, you have to become the part of this earth, and that's the only possible option. It's a very moving video, and of course, it's in nowadays it's even more, let's say, tough. And thinking about contemporary approaches and how artists reflect on the conflicts they involved into. This is another example. This is an artist from Russia, Yana Antonova, and she have been keeping drawing herself as this really recognizable character in traditional colors and with some traditional elements. And for example, on this first picture, the girl is writing the word peace. And you know that it's prohibited according to the laws today in Russia to even say the word war. So in this case, she also maybe doing something wrong, obviously. And this is very moving because in her series, I invite you again to watch her Instagram. We will definitely share the links afterwards. It's this connection between being me in this country and being a representative of this country, even visually, in a visual stuff. And this is something that, you know, that Harry Potter stories that I don't say that there is no bad in myself, that I am a part of this evil. And this is something definitely very beautiful. But we were struggling a lot to find those examples, to be honest. And for example, yesterday, I even wrote to a friend of mine who is a movie director and asked her, Alfia, please tell me what kind of movies says about peace not being an apocalypse on the one hand, and not being something very, you know, fluffy fluff on the other hand. And this is the question that they definitely face in the visual arts as well. And the closest answer for peace building movie for me is the animated drama, animated historical drama by Hayao Miyazaki, The Wind Rises. It is based on the real story, and of course it's romanticized and it's too mild, maybe even for that kind of things to talk to, but still it's something that is more close to peace building in a movies. And with that, I have 3 questions, and I invite you to discuss a little bit. We have very limited time, but still we have something to say, and I already see that there are a lot of deep thoughts in the chat. I'm trying to read through while I'm speaking. The first one, is art inclusive enough to be a peace building practice, to be a bridge? Is art practice work this way? Can we really rely on art while do something for peace? Or it's like the language that not everybody speaks, and it's quite, let's say, specific to be widely spread. The second question, what kind of new art forms might be considered as art for peace? Because as I mentioned before, there is a critical approach in arts, in contemporary arts, or too mild, or too visual, or too beautiful, or too something, not the good art as it's in its real quality. So can the art of a good quality be at the same time not critical, for example? Is there any other language to explore? So this is the question we don't know the answer. We're really struggling to find what kind of this new language is there. And the third question, what examples of art-based initiatives, art-based and peace-building initiatives you could share? Just share it in the chat. We can discuss it or not. We don't have much time, but it's really something to explore, how these initiatives can be also, mapped and shared widely, and be open to different kind of audiences, either professional audiences, either specific communities, either public audience, like wider audience, or decision makers. So if you know any initiatives, we will be happy to share them after, and you just share it now. So with that, I'm not going to share the screen, but if you have some answers on that, let's please discuss. If you have any reflections or thoughts, we will be happy to know them.
So please raise your hand if you want to speak up and share something.
This is actually, yeah, please, Robert.
Yeah, thank you, Olga. That's really wonderful that you presented. Yeah, I just feel like reflecting on the first question: is art enough to be a bridge? The question, I look things through the lens of these 12 sectors, 13 sectors of society. And the question is relative for every sector, basically. So certainly I feel art has a prominent position in that process. And also in relation to all the other sectors who are equally important. So that's my reflection. But thanks, it was wonderful.
Yeah, thank you. It is difficult for us to find those examples, of a good art that is not too much critical. And this is something I'm exploring, what is this new language that can be maybe invented now. Maybe we are at the point to invent this new language for the arts, to be more inclusive, to be more widely spread, because now contemporary art scene definitely works for limited kind of people, limited amount of people, and it's at the same time interesting how we can normalize art practice, let's say, and to build peace with creative approaches. Yeah, please. I see the hand.
Yeah, hello. I invented the new kind of art. Usually, you said it's critical or judgmental towards society, what's going on, what's not good enough. But there's also a different kind of art can be, which helps us to lift us with a frequency. It's called a kind of a energy art, and with the help of it, you can awake what's already good inside of you, and it's already here. There are kind of portals of light, and they're very very deep and very strong. With when you come into the resonance of when you're in the vicinity of that kind of art, it's a transformation within a couple of months.
Okay, thank you for sharing. Actually, sorry. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Yeah, actually, if you could share the examples, I'd be happy to look at together with you and maybe to in our next iteration to include it for anybody to look at this kind of art. So it would be great if you're sharing. I'll send you my email.
Yeah, thank you. I'll put my website in the chat.
Great.
Thank you.
Yes, please, Farrell.
You muted,
watching time and thinking we probably have to go. But just a last thing, I think art is so important. We relate to it in a way that we don't relate to much else. And art not just being drawing, but all of the arts. There's some universities have now done some studies where they have put together some books, actually, because a lot of our research, which is kind of our learning, it's so inaccessible because of the way that it is presented, and it just sits in libraries and nobody reads the stuff. And what they've now done is they've used trapeze artists and you know, actually drawing artists and poets and musicians and all these kind of people to actually now take that research, which would be kind of dry and starchy, and actually make it alive. You know, like when we're watching a movie, it touches us, it does something in us. So I think us as people that are thinking and sense making all these kind of new paradigms and new thinking, we have to tap into our creative side. That would be why the next session we're doing some theater to express some deep stuff about perhaps how to explore being a citizen. So please join us.
Great. Okay, so I guess the time is up. Thank you for sharing. It definitely was the very first touch in this topic as well. I would provide you with one more thought I have that, for example, in music, I really see those examples of a good quality music and peace building music at the same time. So we just have to find the new elements in different art forms and to contribute to them, as you also mentioned. So thank you from my side, and Pavel, over to you for the last goodbye.
Yes, I would also like to thank you very much for your presence, for your contributions, your ideas in the chat, and really vivid exchange between yourselves. And we are touching a topic that is massive as life. So of course 1 hour is not enough, but let's keep in touch, and we will put again the link to registration to 2 more workshops that we do through this pilot stage. But we are also happy to welcome your offerings if you think you can organize something and we can do it together. So please, this is a journey, so we are exploring what is possible. We are just beginning. Thank you very much again, and I pass it over to Tim.